dinner, maybe a snack?
Oh, definitely a snack.
Sounds good.
Pad Thai is very easy to make. Nothing's very difficult. There are a lot of little ingredients. So with our recipes, we focused on one, making it easily accessible to the American pantry, and two, we wanted to serve 4 people. We're gonna start by making a condiment that we're gonna serve with our Pad Thai. And this is 1/3 of a cup of white vinegar. And we're gonna add a little bit of spice. This is a Serrano chili. I'm just gonna slice it into very thin pieces. I'm gonna go all the way to the stem. And we're just gonna put these slices right into the vinegar. All right, moving on. We're gonna start with preserved daikon radish. It adds sort of a pickly flavor. It's a little bit of heat in the daikon. Couldn't find it, really hard to find in a normal supermarket. So we're gonna make our own pickled radish just using radishes.
That makes sense.
Right? And so here I have a 1/4 cup of water, and I dissolved already 1/2 teaspoon of sugar and 1/4 teaspoon salt in the microwave. Took about 30 seconds. And now I'm gonna cut up some radish into nice sticks. And to do that, you just wanna slice the radish lengthwise. And then you can just slice the slices into nice matchsticks.
Yeah, sometimes you can find daikon that's fresh at your supermarket. It's also called Japanese radish often, but it can be a little tricky to find sometimes, so just regular radishes is always a sure bet.
All right, so right into this little brine I made. Now these radishes are gonna sit in here for about another 15 minutes. Then we're gonna take them out and pat them dry. We'll toss them into the Pad Thai at the very end.
Sounds great.
So set those aside. Moving on to the sauce. This is the real deal. This is the heart of Pad Thai. This is 1/4 cup of fish sauce. Into it, I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons of sugar and 3 tablespoons of an ingredient we couldn't substitute. Now, this is tamarind. And tamarind has a very sort of raisiny, sour, tangy flavor. You can buy it in different forms, but we liked tamarind concentrate, 3 tablespoons, and the flavor is really just iconic to Pad Thai.
It's kind of the perfect fruit in terms of sweet and sour balance, all in one.
All right, so we're just gonna whisk this together until the sugar dissolves.
Sounds good. Now a little bit more about tamarind. I remember when you couldn't buy tamarind at a supermarket, and now you can find it in many different forms. This is what fresh tamarind looks like. It's a pod, and inside it has a very flavorful pulp. This is the pulp that's been concentrated into a very thick paste. Both of these are very flavorful, but they need to be reconstituted a lot in order to use for Pad Thai. You can also find tamarind in powdered form, but it's a little too weak for our palate, so we love the ready-to-use concentrate, which is what Julia's using today. It's ready to use right out of the package, big flavor. You do want to make sure to find on the package the words product of Thailand or manufactured in Thailand. This is your best bet.
All right, so on to odd ingredient number 2, dried shrimp. So in Thailand, what they do is they take these tiny dried shellfish, they peel them, they salt them, and they let them dry in the sun. And the flavor they add is really distinct and very authentic. But they're really hard to find, so we're gonna make our own.
Okay.
So here I have 4 shrimp, and I've already peeled them completely and deveined them, and we're gonna cut them into small pieces, cut them through the middle, almost like butterflying them, just all the way through, so that they're nice and thin. And then we're gonna take them, we're just gonna cut them into about 1/2-inch pieces. I'm gonna take all this chopped shrimp, toss it with 1/8 of a teaspoon sugar, 1/8 of a teaspoon salt. Gonna stir this around. And we tried drying it in a skillet. It took about 20 minutes, which was much too long. And we found it much easier to dry them in the microwave. Before you put them in the microwave, you want to spread them out. It's making sure none of these shrimp are really touching each other, because as they start to dry, they turn into little gluey bits.
Yeah, we're finding out that the microwave does more and more. We're actually toasting coconut in the microwave.
Yep.
Perfect way to do that. Toasting nuts, and now we're drying shrimp. What can't it do?
It's a miracle. All right, so into the microwave they go. Again, 50% power for a couple minutes until they reduce their size by about half and they're very dry. Oh, these look perfect. All right, so these were in the microwave for just a few minutes, and you can see they're about half their size.
This is so clever.
And doing this adds such an incredible depth of flavor to the finished Pad Thai, and it's so easy.
Salty and chewy. We love it.
All right, so we're gonna set these over here. Now time for the main ingredient, the rice noodles. So this is 8 ounces of dried rice noodles, and these are the thick ones. They're about 1/4 of an inch thick. The best way to rehydrate them is to use boiling water. It's about 6 cups of boiling water. We're just gonna let them sit there for about 8 minutes, and I'm gonna give them a gentle toss every few minutes to make sure they're not sticking together, and just till they're nice and soft and pliable. All right, Bridget, so these noodles have been soaking for about 8 minutes, and you can see they're nice and soft, but they're not mushy yet, because remember, we still have to cook them a little bit with the sauce and the other ingredients in the skillet. You can see I'm pulling on it a little bit.
Stretchable.
It's not breaking. All right, so now it's time to drain these guys. We also want to give them a good rinse, both to cool them down and help prevent them from sticking to one another. It washes away some of that starch. You really rinse them well. All right, those look pretty good. They're nicely rinsed. Now I'm gonna toss lightly with 2 teaspoons of oil, prevent them from sticking together as they sit and wait their turn in the skillet. All right, put these back in the bowl. There you go, noodles. And we are ready to start cooking. So we're gonna start by adding 2 teaspoons of vegetable oil. And I have to say, putting your vegetable oil in a container like this, very handy, especially with stir fries, when you're adding little bits of oil at a time. We like a skillet because it has a nice flat bottom, a lot of surface area, works well for stir fries and pad thai. So that oil is just shimmering. I'm gonna start with our dried shrimp. We're gonna cook these for about 3 minutes until they turn about golden brown. You just wanna give them a stir every now and again, make sure they're not getting too golden on one side. Oh, you can see they're nicely golden all the way around. And now we're gonna start to build our pad thai. Rather than build it in the skillet, which has limited surface area, our aha moment for making enough pad thai for 4 people is building it in a bowl. Into the skillet, we're gonna add another teaspoon of oil. Now we're gonna add a little garlic and some scallions. Now traditional recipes use a combination of shallot and garlic chives. Garlic chives, really lovely, hard to find unless it's the height of summer around here. So we're gonna substitute both scallion whites and scallion greens. So this was 4 scallions. I separated the whites and minced them. And to this, we're gonna add 1 clove of garlic. We're just gonna cook this in the pan for about a minute. That looks pretty good. So here, I'm gonna take the pan off the heat, scrape this into the bowl with the dried shrimp. And you wanna make sure to get this all out because any bits left will really start to burn. 2 more teaspoons of oil. We're gonna crank the heat up to high, and now we're gonna add some shrimp. So traditionally, there are 3 proteins in pad thai: tofu, eggs, and shrimp. For this recipe, we wanted to make it a little easier. We jettisoned the tofu, and we kept the shrimp and the eggs. It's a pound of shrimp total, but minus the 4 shrimp that we used earlier to make our own dried shrimp. Let them cook for about 3 minutes until they turn opaque and are slightly browned around the edges. Of course, we'll flip them over halfway through. These shrimp look pretty well cooked. You can see they're nicely browned on both sides, and it only took about 3 minutes.
They're gorgeous.
Now, we're actually gonna add the eggs right to the pan with the shrimp. Cleared a little area in the center of the pan. 2 more teaspoons of oil go right in the center. In go the eggs. Now, this is 4 large eggs that I beat together. You wanna stir them around. Just wanna cook them for about 30 seconds or so. Into the bowl. Okay, now back in the skillet, 2 more teaspoons of oil. Again, we're still over high heat. We're gonna add the drained, rinsed noodles and the sauce. We're just gonna cook this 3 minutes or so until most of the sauce is absorbed into those noodles. All right, so these noodles are nicely cooked. They're warmed through. All that sauce has been absorbed. And it's go time.
Yay!
So into the bowl go all those noodles. To this, we're gonna add a little bit of our vinegar that we're also gonna serve with. We're gonna add 2 teaspoons. Now we're gonna add the scallion greens. Remember, we added the scallion whites earlier, and that's replacing those garlic chives. Here are our drained and patted dry pickled radish. Last but not least, 2 cups of bean sprouts.
Nice little bit of crunch right in there.
Now we're just gonna toss this all together.
I wish you guys could be here because what I'm smelling is amazing. All this freshness in there, a little bit of pickle, and of course the fish sauce. Amazing.
All right, so we're gonna put this onto a nice big family-style platter. Oh,
It serves more than 2.
it does, thank goodness, right? And it's not done till we finish with a few roasted but unsalted peanuts. It's about a 1/4 cup lightly chopped. And I'm just gonna platter you up a whole big pile. Some shrimp, some of that egg.
A little bit of vinegar?
Yes,
All
thank
right,
you.
a couple of chilies might fall in there.
Perfect.
There we go.
I'm gonna give you a lime wedge or 2.
Let's take a moment to drink this in, shall we?
This is light and fresh and clean tasting.
Everything is perfectly cooked. The egg is not dried out. It's actually still nice and moist. And the shrimp, not rubbery at all. It's perfect. And I love getting those little bits of dried shrimp in there. I tell you what, they are the bacon of the crustacean world. So our outstanding pad thai recipe, well, it starts with a homemade sauce. Use the microwave to turn fresh shrimp into dry and then soak and drain rice noodles. Stir fry in batches, toss with homemade toppings, and then finish with peanuts. So from America's Test Kitchen to your kitchen, noodles are now your lunch or maybe dinner or anytime with our everyday pad thai. It's incredible.
Isn't it?